Hey, welcome to Sociology. Today we're talking about Chapter 7, the Adult and Society. First we'll talk about early and middle adulthood. Then we'll talk about the world of work. And then finally, the later years. Section 1, early and middle adulthood. In American society, adult stages of development are experienced differently than by men and women. Every adult has a life structure that is characterized by a combination of statuses, roles, activities, goals, values, beliefs, and life circumstances. Daniel Levinson developed a theory of adult male development based on three main areas: early, middle, and late adulthood. The stages of adult female development are heavily influenced by marriage, work, family, and raising children. So the main idea of this section is men and women progress through adult development in different ways. So in your notes in this section, you should have what are the main eras in Daniel Levinson's theory of adult male development, and how does adult female development differ from adult male development? Life structure. Adult male development. The combination of statuses, roles, activities, goals, and values, beliefs, and life circumstances that characterize an individual. Life structures show how common patterns across many social groups includes early, middle, and late adulthood. Early adulthood for men are ages 17 through 22. This is when you're going to college, you're getting your on-the-job training, or going to trade school. It's the transition from high school and childhood to the work world of adult and the adult world. It's when you get your first apartment and you start living on your own and start taking care of some of your own responsibilities. This is when you're expected to explore opportunity as well as make commitments. By age 30, somewhere between the ages of 28 through 32, are crucial because lives often change direction here. It ends the novice phase when men prepare to enter their full adulthood. So now you're no longer bouncing from job to job or job type to job type, but finding yourself in a particular area or company and sticking with them. So this is Levinson's chart on the developmental stages of adulthood. The first thing is the early adult transition, entering the adult world in age 30 transition. This is your novice phase. This is where you go to college, begin learning your career. This is where you get your education and your skill training, that sort of thing. In your early adulthood, you're settling down. This is your 30s, and you start to find a profession. But by the time you're in your 40s, you enter your middle adulthood era, and this is where you start to go through that midlife transition. You enter middle adulthood, and age 50, you start to transition again, and then you have the culmination in middle adulthood. Finally, by the time you hit age 60, you hit that late adult transition, and then you hit your late adulthood. That's where I'm at now. Settling down from ages 33 through 39, our major task is achieving success. This is where we're trying to become the superstar at work. It's where you try to establish themselves in society. usually going through occupational advancement. You get yourself involved in social groups and your church or civic organizations. You commit to things that are important to you. This is where you begin to separate from mentors in order to define your own identity. You no longer necessarily need a mentor as much because now you are becoming one of the experts. By age 40 to 44, you bridge the early and middle adulthood. Your questioning of life structures. Okay, so you start, major goal is to escape pressure of unattainable dreams from youth. You no longer realize that you're going to be CEO or President of the United States or something like that. Here you become a mentor to younger folks, guys in their 20s and early 30s. And then you can lessen the stress associated with this stage by mentoring these people. They learn skills from you, and it gives you that reinforcement that you are the expert. The degree of difficulty that an individual experiences in a period depends on his success in mastering the previous period. So if you did well in your 30s, your 40s, you'll be just fine. Why isn't it? All right. For the adult female, it's a little bit different. The similarities with men is they go through basically the same stages of adult development, but there are great differences in their social identities. Fries and Sales, researchers Fries and Sales gave us 3 phases of specific to women. First, you enter the adult world. First you leave the family and your physical and psychological break from your family. You're no longer the daughter anymore. Now you're the young woman moving out of the house. You start to develop a life plan. What kind of job you're going to have? What kind of education are you going to get? When will you get married? How many children do you want to have? Some women may value marriage over work. Others the other way around. Then they enter into the adult world. Most become mothers in their 20s. Dual roles of motherhood and career cause added strain. And the break of employment that is usually necessary in order to have children lets women fall behind in the career phase of their life. And this helps explain why some women make less money than men in the same occupation. Re-entering the work world. Once their children reach school age, many women re-enter the workforce, or in some cases they wait until their children are grown entirely before they re-enter the workplace. And then once this happens, they re-enter the work world. Commitment to the career at the same time that the husband is doubting his career. So this is when women come back in. They're motivated to get back to work and do work in the work world, while the men are thinking, boy, did I make the right career choice? Am I advancing sufficiently? That kind of thing. And so oftentimes this causes conflict between husband and wives because of it. Statistically speaking, work and motherhood. Most American women juggle work and family. The career paths of working mothers are rarely straightforward. Most American mothers alternate between working full-time and part-time in an attempt to balance work and family life. Many take time to often only a few months to have children. Meanwhile, millions of others American women have their hands full as they stay-at-home moms. 55% of working mothers with children younger than age 1. 72% of mothers with children age 1 and older in the workforce. 83% of new mothers who return to the workforce within 12 months after childbirth. 5.5 million the total number of stay-at-home parents in the United States, including 5.4 million moms and 98,000 dads. So as you can see, women still take the majority of child rearing responsibility in our society. 7% of American families that have a wage-earning dad and a stay-at-home mom. So only 7% of our moms that stay at home. Section 2, the world of work. American workers often spend nearly 50 years in the labor force, making the world of work one of the most important components of adult life. The composition of the labor force and nature of work has changed greatly over the last 100 years. According to opinion polls and social science research, most Americans report being satisfied with their jobs. So the main idea in this section is the world of work is a major component of adult life. In the last 100 years, major changes have transformed the organization of work and composition of labor force. So in your notes, what you should have upon the completion of this section is how has the labor force of the United States changed over the years? What ways has the nature of work changed? And what factors contribute to job satisfaction? Work. Work involves performing all the tasks necessary to produce goods and provide services that meet human needs. Work is the basis for the economy. Typical individual will spend about 50 years of their life in the labor force. All individuals aged 16 and older who are employed in paid positions or who are seeking paid employment. People who are not paid for their labor are part of the informal economy. In 2007, 66% of the U.S. population over the age of 16 was in the labor force. The composition of the American labor force. Recent decades have seen an increase in the number of working women. Women hold just over half of professional jobs. High-status occupations that required specialized skills and knowledge obtained through formal education. The fastest-growing minority group are the Hispanics. Hispanics are increasing in the labor force too. The U.S. labor force is employment by occupation. 35% of the labor force is management and professional. 11% of the labor force is natural resources, construction, and maintenance. 25% of the labor force is in sales, and 16% of the labor force is in service. So the remaining 12% of the labor force works in production, transportation, and material operations. Management and professionals, total employed, 50,420,000, 49.4% are males, while 50.6% are females. Service. Total employed, 23,811,000. The percentage is 42.7% is male, 57.3% is female. And this helps explain why the pandemic was especially hard on women, because so many of them are in the service industry. Sales in office, total employed, 36,141,000. 36.7% are male, while females are 63.3%. When it comes to natural resources, construction and maintenance type work, 15,830,000, 95.3% are males, while only 4.7% are females. These jobs typically pay $15.51 plus per hour. And then production, transportation, and material occupations, 77.2% are males. Females are 22.8%. Unemployment. Unemployment occurs when a person does not have a job but is actively seeking employment. The unemployment rate is the percentage of civilian labor force that is unemployed but actively seeking employment. The unemployment rate varies across social groups, and 5% unemployment is considered acceptable in the United States. The reason 5% is considered acceptable is because typically that's how many people are between jobs at any given time looking for work somewhere else. In 1900, 35% of the American workforce was in agriculture. 45% worked in manufacturing, and 20% worked as professions, management, office work, and sales. In the 1950s, manufacturing became the dominant occupation. Today, only 13% work in agriculture and manufacturing in the American economy. 76% work in professions, management, office work, and sales. One of the big controversies of today is globalization. New technology has changed the economy. Many manufacturing jobs have been outsourced or sent to countries where labor is far less expensive. In recent years, no technology has transformed the workplace more than the internet. It has made possible telecommuting, new jobs, and 24-hour access to the office. It has also changed how workers take breaks, how they goof off on the job. In a 2008 study of 1,700 workers, researchers at Goldsmith College in London found that e-breaks or 10-minute web surfing sessions could increase employee performance. Their findings suggest that workers felt more focused after e-breaks than after cigarette or tea breaks. According to Dr. Thomas Chamorro, the study's lead researcher, banning access to websites is bad for employee morale, which leads to decreased productivity, and that could be costing British firms nearly $8 billion a year. For employers, however, e-breaks are not the problem. Companies are concerned about employees who waste company time and money. A 2005 survey found that the average American worker spends 2 hours a day, roughly 1/4 of the workday, surfing the web, instant messaging, and using social networking sites. To prevent such abuse, to secure computer systems, about 45% of U.S. companies reported in 2007 that they use spyware to track the time their employees spend on the internet. Now, of course, you might find that the data on this has changed since 2008, since most people's phones can do this for them. And so it'd be interesting to look into what research has been done on that. Opinion polls. 42% said they were very satisfied with their jobs. 38% said they were somewhat satisfied. Factors for job satisfaction include interesting nature of their work, salary, working hours, workplace safety, and relations with coworkers. Factors for dissatisfaction: on-the-job stress, retirement and insurance benefits, salary, recognition, and chances for promotion. Job and career changes. Changing jobs and or careers is a well-established pattern in the United States. The average American worker changes companies 9 times and changes careers 5 to 6 times. Section 3. the later years. Social development continues throughout adulthood, well into the final stages of life. People age 65 and older make up the fastest growing segment of the world's population. Older Americans face many challenges, including physical and mental decline, dependency, and death. For many aging Americans, retirement opens up a new world full of freedom and new opportunities for growth and change. So in this section, the main idea is Americans entering the later years or old age face a new set of life transition challenges and opportunities. So in your notes, you should be able to outline what changes characterize late adulthood and what new opportunities do older Americans enjoy. Statistics. Age 65 and older, 11% of the U.S. population in 1980 are over 12% in 2000, projected to be 20% by 2030. Gerontology is a field of study in which you study aging. You study old people. Instead of studying like young folks, you study old folks. Social gerontology is the study of the non-physical aspects of aging. Young and old, ages 65 through 74. So those people who are ages 65 to 74 are in the sociological terms referred to as the young old. These are the people who are newly retired till they're 74. Middle old is ages 75 through 84. And these are the folks who have now passed through the stage that, where retirement is new, and this is also where the body begins to take significant declines. Old are people that are ages 85 and older. And of course, these are the people who oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes need full-time attention to make sure that they're well cared for. So the age range for young old is 65 to 74 years old. Back in 2007, the estimate is that there were 19,352,149 people in this age group, and that was 6.4% of the population. Their big concerns were adjustments to retirement, maintaining their social networks, and pursuing new opportunities and positive mental health. Middle old is 75 to 84 years old. These folks are 13,023,511, and it's about 4.3% of the population. So here you see that you've got about 11% of the American population is between the ages of 65 to 84. Their big concerns is their physical health, their mental function, their dependency, and death issues. These are the big issues that come across to them. By age 85, there's only about 5,512,298 people over the age of 85. This is less than 2% of the population. So if we look at this, that's showing you that about why this is such an important and powerful voting bloc of people, because these people tend to be older, they tend to be conservative, and they tend to vote because they have lots of time to look into those sorts of things. And this is approximately the same percentage of the population as there are African Americans. Of course, many of these people are African American. My point is, it's a large voting bloc. For people that are 85 and older, physical health, mental functioning, and dependency are the primary issues in their life. So, adjustment to retirement. Retirement involves the loss of role and status associated with a particular job, as well as being a working adult. People no longer will ask you, so what do you do for a living? And then you can brag on yourself. You have to talk about the things you used to do. Some are greatly bothered by this loss, and others rank it as low stress. Factors such as income, health, social networks, and identity affect a person's adjustment to retirement. One of the problems with retirement is nowadays most companies no longer offer pensions, and so people have to invest in their own retirement when they're younger. And then, of course, that's just not what most Americans do. The loss of independence can have negative consequences. So if you're not able to live independently because you no longer, or is actively because you no longer have a occupation, then it has this negative effect on you. Physical and mental functioning. Aging involves the weakening and slowing of the body processes. Intellectual ability declines very little. And it's at this stage of life where Alzheimer's disease begins to emerge. And it is the leading form of dementia. Once people contract Alzheimer's disease, they usually will pass within 10 years. Dealing with the dependency and debt. Dependency is the shift from being an independent adult to being dependent on others for physical or financial assistance. Oftentimes you will find that these folks have to rely on their children to make sure that they have their groceries or their house taken care of or things like that, when they used to be able to take care of all that stuff themselves. Most elderly people fear this dependency, and it's known to cause stress in parent-child relationships because oftentimes children are no longer able to live far away or live as independently on their own because they have to make sure mom and dad are taken care of. Retirement is often accompanied by the feelings of freedom, free time to try new things, travel, attend college, pursue activities such as crafts, golf, or gardening, and become politically active. And that's why when you go to many of these activities, you'll often see older folks are the ones that are the dominant people, like on your tours and your cruise ships and things like that. Oftentimes, they begin a second career, and they take on a new type of occupation that they didn't feel they had the freedom to try before, or they might just take on a volunteer career, like being somebody heavily involved in their church or civic organization, for instance. Individuals who have planned for retirement have been better positioned to take advantage of opportunities in this period. They have financial planning, broadening one's interests, developing hobbies, and they take care of one's health. Current research in sociology shows that challenging stereotypes about aging. According to popular wisdom, as people grow older, they grow more rigid in their habits, more conservative in their social and political thinking. But is this true? Stereotypes about older people are becoming more conservative have been proven inaccurate. In fact, older people grow more liberal on many subjects. One possible explanation is that as society has become less conservative about topics such as race relations, the difference is more noticeable in older respondents. And results show that people's attitudes grow and change throughout their lives. And so oftentimes this is the case. This concludes our discussion of late adulthood in Chapter 7. Next time, Chapter 8.